Silence. That is how all great secrets begin. Long before the emperors of China ruled under heaven, before the great wall traced the spine of the earth, there was said to be a scroll not written by man, but burned into silk by the sky itself. They called it the scroll of fire and heaven. According to legend, it was not ink that formed its words, but light, and whoever could read it would command both the life of the earth and the fury of the stars. The oldest record of the scroll comes not from a library, but from a grave. In 1947, deep within the mountains of Gansu, an archaeologist named Dr. Jian Qiu unearthed a tomb unlike any other. It was circular, lined with blackened stone, and in its center lay a body perfectly preserved, eyes open, watching. In the figure's hands was a fragment of scorched silk, no larger than a hand. Across it shimmered faint golden symbols that moved when seen from different angles. Every attempt to translate it failed. Weeks later, the tomb collapsed. Dr. Qiu's entire team vanished under the mountain, leaving behind only one word written in his notebook, reborn. Centuries earlier, the scroll was said to have been guarded by the Brotherhood of the Black Lotus, sealed within a temple that no map dares to name. It was not an artifact to be read. It was a key, a bridge between the mortal and the divine. Ancient record described the scroll as divided into 3 layers of truth. The words of flame, visible symbols that described the language of light. The veins of the earth, a hidden map of ley lines that connect the world's power centers. The breath of heaven, an invisible vibration that awakens only in the presence of those chosen to guard it that no one ever claimed to see all 3, for those who tried never lived long enough to speak. The first known attempt to unlock its power came during the early Han Dynasty, when a mystic named Li Fang claimed to have seen the scroll in a dream. He described a tower of light rising from the desert, where shadows danced like serpents. When he awoke, his body glowed faintly blue for 7 days. Then he disappeared. Centuries later, travelers claimed to find his body petrified in stone, his eyes glowing as if alive. Throughout the dynasties, fragments of the scroll resurface in strange places. A golden thread woven into a tapestry, a symbol carved beneath the floor of a temple, a shard of jade engraved with words that shimmered under moonlight. Each time, disaster followed at IN 1126. A Ming-era scholar named Zhao Wen decoded a single line. The sky obeys a flame, the earth remembers a wound. That night, lightning struck his study, burning every manuscript except that single phrase untouched, floating amid ashes. It was said Zhao's last scream echoed with 2 voices, one human, one ancient. The Brotherhood believed that the scroll was not meant to be read but heard. To them, its vibrations were like a song one that resonated with the hidden rhythm of the planet itself. They trained their monks to listen, not with ears, but with the soul. Those who could hear it described the same vision, a dragon coiled around a tower of fire, breathing light into the heavens, and above it a voice, neither male nor female, whispering in a language older than mankind. The Brotherhood called it the Song of the Skyfire. They believed it was a warning left by beings who once walked the earth before humans rose from the mud. Beings that used the Qianhua heaven fire as both creation and destruction to in the archives of the Forbidden City. Hidden behind the Emperor's astrology chamber lies a sealed room known only to imperial historians as the Chamber of the Ninth Seal. Few know what rests within, but documents smuggled during the Qing dynasty speak of a scroll stored there, one that hums softly when touched. A note attached to its silk wrapping reads, "The eyes that see the heavens burn first." When the last emperor fled the palace in 1911, he took the scroll with him. It was never seen again, yet whispers persisted. In 1972, during the Cultural Revolution, a farmer digging a well in Shaanxi province uncovered an ancient bronze case wrapped in lacquered silk. Inside were ashes, and a second silk fragment glowing faintly in the dark. When scientists analyzed it, they found traces of metals unknown to the periodic table and radiation levels higher than any natural source. 2 of the researchers fell within days, reporting the same hallucinations, visions of dragons, burning cities, and voices chanting beneath the earth. The fragment was seized by the government and quietly erased from all records. The farmer who found it vanished soon after. Legends claim that the scroll of fire in heaven was not of this world. Some say it fell from the sky, a remnant of the heavenly visitors the Zhou dynasty recorded as beings of light who taught the first emperors. Others believe it was forged in the heart of the furnace of heaven, where the Qin alchemists reached beyond the mortal realm. One forbidden text describes its true origin. In the age before memory, the lords of the stars built a bridge of flame between worlds. When they departed, they left a song in silk that man might one day find his way home. If that text is real, the scroll is not just history, it's technology. A language capable of shaping matter, bending energy, and calling down forces no human was meant to command that I in the modern era. Rumors emerged of a secret program, a collaboration between Chinese scientists and unknown foreign agents, codenamed Project Skyfire. Its goal, to decode the energy patterns of the ancient scroll using quantum resonance. Leaked documents hinted that the team recreated part of the scroll's structure using high-frequency plasma fields. For 3.2 seconds, the experiment produced a shape identical to ancient dragon motifs, swirling fire and magnetic flux twisting together. Then, the power grid across western China failed. A blue light was seen from orbit. Every recording device malfunctioned. When the system rebooted, one phrase appeared on every monitor. "The dragon has seen you." The project was shut down, all records deleted. But the energy signature, that same hum, still lingers in the ground beneath the test site. The Brotherhood of the Black Lotus had warned this would happen. Before their last known leader vanished in 1999, he left a final message written on rice paper, sealed in wax. The seal of the dragon weakens when the song of heaven is sung by machines. The flame was meant to breathe, not to be harnessed. Remember, once the scroll speaks, it cannot be silenced. To this day, deep in the mountains of western China, locals speak of a low vibration heard only on moonless nights, like the sound of wind trapped in stone. Animals refuse to go near it. Monks chant louder during those hours. They say the sound is the breathing of the earth, the same rhythm once described in the ancient scroll, and that someday, when the stars align as they did thousands of years ago, the scroll of fire in heaven will open itself again. For those who believe, the prophecy remains clear. When man touches the flame with a heart of iron, the sky will break, and dragons shall return. The earth will tremble, and the Brotherhood will rise from shadow to guard the silence once more. And so, in hidden corners of China among temples, deserts, and archives they still wait. The descendants of the Brotherhood, their faces unknown, their names erased, their mission eternal. They know the truth no empire dared to speak. The scroll of fire in heaven is not a relic. It is alive, and it is listening. The desert winds of Shuangxi still carry the same dust that buried emperors. Beneath the silence of the dunes, history sleeps, but not forever. For in every grain of sand lies a memory of a throne once ruled by a man who defied heaven itself. Qin Shi Huang, the first emperor, the unifier, the immortal dreamer, the man who burned 1,000 books so that only his truth would remain. But death does not end a man like him. Not when his empire was built on the bones of the stars. For centuries, his mausoleum has remained untouched, a forbidden city beneath the earth, guarded by the terracotta army, each soldier frozen mid-step, each face uniquely human, yet eerily lifeless. Archaeologists call it an artistic marvel, but the Brotherhood of the Black Lotus calls it something else. The Army of Waiting. They believe the terracotta warriors are not statues, but vessels, empty shells, prepared to hold life once more when the emperor awakens. And deep within that buried palace, surrounded by rivers of mercury and walls of gold, lies the heart of the secret that started it all, the tomb core, where the Qianhua, the heaven fire, was sealed. For more than 2,000 years, the tomb core has pulsed faintly beneath the ground. At first, it was only a whisper, a vibration detected by seismic sensors in the 1990s. But after the events of Project Skyfire, the signal began to change. The frequency aligned with ancient astronomical charts found in the Emperor's archives, a pattern known as a dragon's breath cycle. Every 2,200 years, the stars formed the same alignment that once guided the alchemist of Qin. And according to their prophecy, when the sky mirrors the ground, the Emperor shall walk again. That alignment is due now. In 2008, during an unauthorized excavation, a small team of researchers broke into a lower chamber beneath the mausoleum. They reported an intense magnetic field, causing their instruments to fail. Moments before their signal was lost, one of them transmitted a single message: "It's breathing." When a recovery team entered 3 days later, they found the chamber collapsed, the rock fused as if melted by heat. The air inside was metallic, and the soil glowed faintly blue. Every camera malfunctioned. All footage classified. But one image survived, a glimpse of a circular room covered in unknown writing, and at its center, a throne of obsidian stone. Empty. The Brotherhood had long warned that the Emperor's return would not be resurrection in the mortal sense. They believed his soul was split into fragments, bound into the Tianhua itself, his consciousness merged with the fire of heaven. When the seal weakens, those fragments begin to seek each other. And wherever they gather, strange phenomena occur. Monks in Tibet report dreams of a man in black armor walking through storms of ash. Farmers near Lebanon claim to hear drums underground. In remote villages, radio flicker on at midnight, playing ancient war chants, songs that predate recorded music. The Brotherhood interprets these as signs. The dragon is not merely waking. He is remembering. Historical records speak of the first emperor's obsession with immortality, but the truth, buried in forbidden scrolls, tells a darker story. He was not seeking life eternal. He was seeking transformation. He believed the human form was a cage, and that only through merging with the Tianhua could he become one with heaven's power. Some say he succeeded. When the furnace of heaven exploded, destroying his alchemists and consuming half the palace, witnesses described a storm of light spiraling into the sky, taking with it the emperor's voice. He was never seen again. But days later, the sky glowed for 7 nights, and every compass pointed toward his tomb. The chronicles called it the return of the dragon's breath. Modern scientists once dismissed these tales as myth, until the 11 Impulse incident of 2016. At 3:03 a.m., seismic sensors recorded a rhythmic vibration beneath the emperor's tomb, identical to a human heartbeat. The pulse lasted 7 minutes. Satellite images captured faint light emerging from the ground in concentric circles, and the magnetic field across central China shifted slightly, as if something vast was stirring beneath the soil. Then, without warning, the signal stopped. Completely. The earth fell silent. But those who lived near the tomb began to report something chilling. At night, in the fields, they saw human silhouettes, hundreds of them, standing still, facing east. When approached, they vanished into dust. Rumors spread of a government blackout. A section of land near Mount Lee was sealed off, surrounded by military vehicles. Drones flying overhead captured glimpses of what appeared to be faint blue mist rising from the ground, forming shapes, armor, faces, banners. Each time, the pattern resembled the same symbol, the sigil of the Qin dynasty. It was the same emblem carved on the bronze fragments found in the furnace of heaven's sight, the mark of the emperor's divine authority. Those who still follow the Brotherhood's hidden scriptures know what it means. When the dragon's breath meets man's fire, the emperor returns not as flesh, but as storm. But what does return mean in a world that has forgotten the language of gods? Perhaps not reincarnation, but reanimation, the merging of energy, matter, and memory, a rebirth of will, not of blood. In classified archives, there are accounts of artifact awakening, terracotta soldiers emitting faint heat signatures, mercury streams flowing again beneath the tomb. And in 2018, a local geologist reported finding a black sphere near the excavation site, identical to the one discovered decades earlier by the Brotherhood in the desert. It pulsed once every 7 seconds, before disintegrating. The next day, lightning struck the mausoleum's hill. The impact left a pattern burned into the earth, a dragon spiraling around a human figure. Legends claim the emperor left behind 9 keys, fragments of divine technology hidden across the land, each corresponding to a part of his soul. As each key awakens, the path to his return grows clearer. Some believe the keys are disguised as relics in museums. Others claim they are buried within China's ley lines, ancient dragon veins that connect temples, tombs, and mountains. And every time those veins hum, during earthquakes, solar storms, or strange atmospheric phenomena, the Brotherhood listens. They track the energy. They know what it means. The seal weakens. The dragon remembers his name. In the ruins of an abandoned monastery near Chengdu, an old monk left behind a final prophecy carved into stone. The emperor sleeps not in death but in command. When men of fire summon the sky again, the dragon's shadow will walk the earth, and nations shall tremble before the memory of heaven. It is said those words were not his own. He wrote them in trance, whispering a name over and over, Shahuangdi. When the monks found him, his body had turned to ash. Today, the government denies all activity beneath the tomb. But satellite scans tell another story, faint geometric shapes expanding under the surface, symmetrical and precise, like the design of a circuit. Something ancient, something built to awaken. And somewhere in the mountains, a faceless monk lights a single lantern, bows before a black lotus, and speaks the words once forbidden. The emperor's breath returns. The seal cracks. The war between heaven and earth begins anew. Beneath the veiled dawn of the Han Dynasty, as mist rolled across the ancient valleys and the yellow river glimmered like a coiled serpent, a whisper began to stir, the prophecy of the dragon seal. It was said to be carved not by man, but by the gods themselves, its symbols alive with the breath of heaven. Those who touched it could command the fate of empires, or bring about their ruin. The story begins in the hidden archives of Mount Lee, where monks of the eternal flame guarded scrolls no emperor dared to read. Among these relics lay a fragmented vase, written in crimson ink upon silk older than any dynasty. It spoke of a seal forged in fire, buried with a false emperor, and destined to rise again when China's balance teetered on the edge of darkness. They called it Longyin, the dragon seal. Whispers claimed that the seal held the consciousness of the first divine ruler, the son of heaven before history began. To possess it was to awaken the dragon's will itself. But in the shadowed chambers of the Forbidden City, those who sought it often met death before truth. When the prophecy resurfaced, Emperor Wu of Han summoned his secret council, the Silent Hand, descendant of the Black Lotus Brotherhood. Cloaked in anonymity, they moved like smoke through palaces and temples, erasing names, altering records, rewriting history to conceal their eternal purpose, the restoration of the dragon seal. From Lebanon to Chengdu, strange omens began to appear. Temples burned under cloudless skies. Statues wept blood, and travelers spoke of ghostly soldiers marching under the moon, clad in armor from forgotten ages. The empire trembled, for all who remembered the ancient war feared its return. The emperor's astrologer, Lady Mylin, was summoned to interpret the signs. With eyes like liquid obsidian and a voice calm as the grave, she warned, "The seal stirs because the pact is broken. The heavens demand a reckoning." Her words spread through the court like wildfire. Ministers whispered that the lost army of Qin had awakened beneath the earth, still bound by the dragon seal's curse. The Brotherhood, unseen for centuries, began to move openly once more. In marketplaces and monasteries, coins marked with the sigil of a coiled serpent began to circulate, a secret message to those who knew its meaning. Meanwhile, deep beneath the Great Wall, a tomb long thought empty began to breathe. A team of imperial diggers unearthed chambers lined with dragon-shaped pillars, their scales inlaid with gold. At the center, atop a dais of black jade, sat a sarcophagus, sealed by 7 iron locks. When the first lock broke, a wind unlike any other escaped, carrying a whisper that chilled the men to the bone. Return what was stolen. By nightfall, the diggers were dead. Their bodies bore no wounds, but their faces were frozen in terror, as if they had seen the heavens fall. The site was sealed by royal decree. Officially, it never existed. But one record survived, a single parchment smuggled out by a scribe named Shinrui. His account spoke of a vision that came to him that night, a colossal dragon coiling around the earth, its eyes glowing from beneath the soil, whispering that the age of men had ended. In his trembling script, he wrote, "The dragon seal is not a relic. It is alive. It waits for the emperor who is not born of man." As the empire celebrated its harvest festivals, another kind of gathering took place in secret. The remnants of the Brotherhood met under the ruins of the old capital. They swore allegiance to a hidden heir, a boy whose bloodline traced not to the ruling house, but to the vanished dynasty of the Qin. The dragon seal, they believed, belonged to him. The prophecy was in motion once more. The empire's fate no longer rested on armies or laws, but on a relic buried in the earth, and on the shadow of a child who would either unite China forever or awaken the dragon that would burn it to ash. And in the silence before dawn, as thunder rolled across distant mountains, a single crimson glow flickered from beneath the soil, the eye of the dragon seal, opening once again. They called it the Silent Mountain, a mound of earth and stone stretching across the ancient plains outside of Lebanon, said to house the first emperor's spirit. For centuries, no one dared to dig there. Legends warned that to disturb its heart would awaken the sleeping army beneath and the dragon that watched over it. But as the whispers of the dragon seal spread through the empire, fear began to lose its hold. Gold, glory, and power lured men to the mountain's shadow. The Brotherhood of the Black Lotus believed that the lost seal of heaven was hidden within this tomb, placed there by the ancient to protect the world from its fire. The first diggers came at night, under moonlight dimmed by the haze of burning incense. Their torches flickered against the dark mouth of the tomb, illuminating carvings of serpents devouring their tails, the symbol of endless rebirth. Each step they took downward was a step into forgotten history, a descent through time itself. The tunnels were lined with murals, battles of gods and men, chariots pulled by dragons, rivers of molten gold. Some murals moved when touched, shifting like water. Others seemed to breathe. The air grew thick with the scent of sandalwood and rot. And then, in the deepest chamber, they found the doors, 2 slabs of black jade, sealed with iron rings and coated in red lacquer. Upon them was written in ancient seal script, "Here sleeps the first emperor, and that which heaven forbade." The Brotherhood's leader, a man known only as Master Jew, stepped forward. He carried an amulet shaped like a dragon's eye, a relic passed down through generations of the Silent Hand. When he raised it before the door, the iron rings began to hum, vibrating with low, unnatural sound. Dust rained from the ceiling. The air itself seemed to resist them, as though warning them to turn back. But ambition is deaf to warnings. When the door finally opened, the tomb exhaled. A cold wind swept through the tunnels, snuffing out torches and chilling bone and soul alike. Inside, rows of clay soldiers stood guard, their faces eerily human, too human. Each bore a faint smile, as if alive, waiting. In the center of the chamber, upon a dais of jade and gold, rested a massive sarcophagus shaped like a dragon's coiled body. The seal lay upon its chest. It was no ordinary artifact, a circular disk of obsidian, pulsing faintly, engraved with constellations that did not belong to this world. The symbol seemed to shift when seen from the corner of the eye, as if alive. When Master Jew reached for it, the tomb shook, the clay soldiers stirred. Dust fell in waves. From the sarcophagus, a sound rose, not a roar, but a deep, trembling breath. The eyes of the soldiers began to glow with pale blue fire. The diggers screamed, but there was nowhere to run. The mountain closed behind them, sealing the tomb once again. By morning, Elevenen's villagers awoke to an earthquake that cracked the plains. The silent mountain bled smoke for 3 days. No survivors emerged. The Brotherhood was erased in one night. Yet one relic did escape. A young novice named Liang, a boy chosen to serve the Brotherhood, had fled before the final descent. In his trembling hands, he carried not the seal itself, but a fragment of the stone door etched with the same dragon sigil. On it, an inscription read, "He who wakes a dragon will not command it. He will become it." Liang wondered for days, delirious and half-mad. When he reached the Temple of the Eternal Flame, he collapsed at the gates. The monks took him in, and before dying, he whispered only 4 words. "The Emperor still breathes." The monks sealed the fragment within a chamber of sacred ash, vowing to protect it from mortal greed. But word of the tomb's awakening spread beyond Elevenen. The Emperor's spies, fearing rebellion, began to hunt anyone who spoke of dragons or buried seals. In the capital, Lady Mylin dreamt again, of fire-swallowing mountains, of armies marching under a blood-red sky, and of a throne made of bones. The dragon seal was calling, and the Empire could no longer ignore its voice. For beneath the forbidden tomb, the dragon had not merely stirred. It had begun to remember. The chronicles of China speak of 1,000 wars, of dynasties rising and falling like waves on the Yellow River. But there was one war never written, never spoken, never remembered. A war that began before ink met paper, before kings were crowned, before even the Great Wall divided earth from sky. It was called the War of Silence, a conflict fought not for land or gold, but for truth itself. Those who knew of it were erased. Entire villages vanished from record. Temples burned without cause. And beneath every ruin lay the same mark, the coral dragon devouring its own tail. It began after the awakening beneath Elevenen, when the tomb's echoes reached the Emperor's court. Strange omens plagued the land, rivers turning red, locusts falling from the sky, statues whispering at dusk. The people said heaven was angry, that the dead demanded remembrance. But the Emperor believed otherwise. He saw it as a sign that the dragon seal had returned to him. Lady Mylin, the imperial astrologer, begged him to stop his search. "The seal is not a gift, your majesty," she warned. "It is a chain that binds a dragon. Break it, and heaven itself will burn." But her warnings fell upon the deaf ears of power. The emperor commanded his armies, 500,000 men, to march west toward the ancient mountains where the lost tomb lay hidden under 1,000 years of soil. It was there, in the misted valleys beyond the Lebanon, that the veil between worlds began to tear. At first, the soldiers found nothing but ruins, temples half buried in stone, statues melted into glass, and rivers that flowed backward under the moon. But as they dug deeper, the ground began to hum. The air turned heavy, metallic, electric, as if the sky itself were breathing through them. Then they appeared, phantoms in armor, faces pale as ash, eyes burning with blue fire, the lost army of Qin. The same soldiers buried centuries ago, still marching under a banner no longer recognized by heaven or earth. Their weapons gleamed though untouched by time. Their movements were silent, their purpose absolute. The emperor's soldiers fought bravely, but no blade could pierce smoke, and no fire could burn the dead. The living fell by the thousands, not to wounds, but to fear itself, their hearts stopping mid-breath, their spirits torn away. For days, thunder rolled across the valleys. Lightning carved the mountains open. The battle left no witnesses, no survivors. Only shadows burned into the ground like eternal ghosts. When word reached the capital, it was said that the emperor did not sleep for 7 nights. He dreamed of the dragon, not a creature of scales and wings, but a serpent of stars coiling around the world, whispering in an ancient tongue. The war never ended. You are merely its echo. Terrified, the emperor ordered all records of the battle destroyed. He decreed that no man was to speak of it, no monk to write it, no bard to sing of it. He named it the war that time forgot, and in doing so, sealed the truth in silence. But silence is memory. Far from the capital, in the ruins of a temple scorched black by celestial fire, the boy Liang still lived. He had seen the war from the mountains, had seen men turn to ash and spirits rise into the storm. In his trembling hands, he held a fragment of the dragon's sigil. And as lightning struck the temple's altar, the fragment pulsed once, alive. A voice echoed within his mind, ancient and soft. The seal is broken. The dragon is free. But only one bloodline can command it. Liang's eyes widened. The prophecy was true. The bloodline of the first emperor had not vanished. It had hidden, generation after generation, waiting for the day when the world would need it again. And now, with the dragon seal awakened, the air must rise, or all of China would fall into fire once more. As night fell over the ruins, the boy lit a single lantern. Its flame flickered against the mountains, casting the shadow of a dragon across the earth, a symbol of the war that was never supposed to return, but always had. The war that time forgot had begun again. They said the dragon's power could never die, only pass from blood to blood, through those chosen by heaven and cursed by the same. The ancient texts called him the immortal line, descendant of the first emperor, hidden among peasants, monks, and scholars for thousands of years. After the war that time forgot, the empire lay in silence. Cities rebuilt their walls, but the land itself fell hollow, as if its spirit had gone to sleep. No one spoke of dragons anymore, and no one dared utter the word seal. But beneath the quiet, forces moved in secret. In a monastery perched above the clouds in the Wudang Mountains, a child was born with eyes of molten gold. The monk said he did not cry when he entered the world, only stared into the firelight as if remembering it. They named him Liang Sheng, son of no one, yet carrying the weight of forgotten destiny. As he grew, strange things surrounded him. The wind bent around his steps. The temple bells rang when he dreamed. When he touched water, it shimmered like molten metal. The elder monk who raised him whispered, "You carry the dragon's breath, boy. But remember, even heaven fears its fire." One night, when the stars burned red, Liang Sheng found a fragment buried beneath the temple floor, a shard of black stone engraved with the same sigil his ancestor had once held. When he touched it, vision struck him like thunder. He saw empires rise and fall in a single heartbeat. He saw armies of clay march beneath the ground. He saw the dragon's seal, alive, beating like a heart beneath the earth. And above it all, he saw a woman, cloaked in white, her face veiled, standing on a mountain of bones, whispering words older than creation. The blood remembers. The blood returns. He awoke screaming, the shard burning in his hand. The monks gathered around him, terrified. The fragment had fused into his skin, its symbol glowing faintly under his pulse. From that day, the Brotherhood of the Black Lotus began to hunt him. They had survived in the shadows, waiting for the return of the true heir, but not to serve him, to claim him. For in their twisted doctrine, whoever controlled the bloodline could command the dragon seal itself. Liang Xing fled into the wilderness, guided only by the voice that haunted his dreams. It led him through ancient forests, past forgotten temples, and into the ruins of Lebanon, where the earth still whispered from the war centuries before. There, in the silence of broken stone, he found Lady Mylin. She had not aged a day. Her eyes still glowed with starlight, her presence both divine and human, the mark of one who had touched the dragon's essence and lived. She told Liang the truth that history had buried. The seal is not a weapon. It is a memory of the world before man, when heaven and earth were one. The dragon was its guardian. The emperor bound it, and your blood is its key. Liang trembled. Then why does it call me? She looked toward the horizon, where thunder gathered like dark silk. Because the seal is breaking again, and when it does, the sky will burn. The immortal bloodline was never meant to rule, only to protect what must never awaken. Before dawn, the Brotherhood arrived, cloaked figures descending like shadows, their eyes marked with the serpent sigil. They surrounded the ruins, chanting in tongues no human had spoken in centuries. The air thickened. The ground trembled. The dragon seal's pulse could be felt beneath their feet. Lady Mylin drew a circle of light around Liang, her voice rising above the storm. Run, child of fire. The bloodline must endure, or all will end. She turned, facing the Brotherhood as lightning split the sky. Her form blazed like sunlight through mist. When the storm cleared, the ruins were ash, and Liang was gone. He wandered north for many years, pursued by men who served the forgotten order. He changed his name, hid among the common folk, never speaking of the power that burned beneath his skin. But even as he aged, his reflection did not. For the blood of the immortals does not die. It waits. And in the silence of every passing century, the dragon's heart still beat beneath China's soil, slow, patient, eternal, waiting for the moment when the heir would no longer run, but return. Because history could hide the war, the Brotherhood, and the seal, but it could never bury the blood. The wind over China carried an ancient voice, older than the mountains, older than time itself. It whispered through the rice fields, the temples, the tombs, calling out to the blood that had been scattered across millennia. The prophecy had come full circle. In a remote valley shrouded in perpetual mist, Liang Xing, now a man untouched by age, stood before a mountain that was not marked on any map. The locals called it Qianlong, the heaven dragon. Its slopes shimmered faintly, as if wrapped in breathing stone. He had felt its pull for decades, a heartbeat in the ground that matched his own. He knew now why. Buried beneath Qianlong lay the final resting place of the dragon seal, the heart of the hidden empire, the throne of those who had ruled the world before history began. As he began the climb, thunder rolled low across the valley, and the sky turned the color of dying embers. Symbols began to glow faintly upon the rocks, the same sigil burned into his flesh long ago. The mountain itself was awakening, sensing the return of its heir. At the summit stood a vast stone gate, covered in carvings of dragons devouring stars, men kneeling beneath them. It was said to be the gateway between heaven and earth, the entrance to the hidden dynasty. Liang placed his hand upon the gate. The mark on his palm pulsed once, then twice, and the stone rippled like water. A deep sound echoed from within, not of metal or rock, but of breath. The mountain exhaled. He stepped into darkness. The tunnels twisted downward, lined with gold veins that pulsed like living veins. Murals covered the walls, not of human kings, but of dragons crowned with halos, their eyes filled with galaxies. He understood now that the ancients had not worshipped dragons. They had obeyed them. At the chamber's end lay a throne carved from obsidian, and before it, the dragon seal. It floated above the ground, spinning slowly, surrounded by a faint aura of light. Inside its surface, reflections moved like dreams, armies marching, worlds burning, time unraveling. Liang fell to his knees. Every life that had come before him, every emperor, warrior, monk, and child of the bloodline, echoed within him now. Their memories crashed through him like a tidal wave. He saw the first emperor binding the dragon beneath the earth. He saw the brotherhood betrayal. He saw Mai Lin, immortal guardian of heaven's flame, sacrificing herself to protect the world from the awakening. And then he heard it, the voice that had haunted his dreams since birth. You have come to end what they began. The seal is not power. It is balance. To awaken it is to restore the world, or end it. Liang rose slowly. His hand reached toward the seal, and for a moment the chamber lit with the light of 1,000 suns. The air rippled. The mountains shook. Outside, rivers reversed their flow. Cities fell silent. The sky cracked open. Across China, people lifted their heads to see the impossible. Dragons made of starlight coiling through the heavens, as if the constellations themselves had come alive. Their roars were not of war, but of remembrance. The lost war was not a story of conquest. It had been a cleansing, a sealing away a divine power that humanity had once abused. The hidden dynasty had never vanished. It had waited beneath the surface of the world, guarding the seal until one of true blood and pure intent could restore the balance. As Liang held the seal, he felt his body dissolve into light. His voice joined the storm, neither human nor divine. The mark upon his palm flared once more, and then faded into nothing. When the light dimmed, the seal was gone. The throne was empty. Only the echo of his final whisper remained, carried on the mountain wind. The dragon sleeps again, and so does the truth. Centuries later, in modern Lebanon, archaeologists would uncover fragments of black jade under the old city walls, engraved with strange symbols that shimmered under light. None could decipher them. But among the villagers, an old saying returned, one older than memory itself. The dragon does not die. It only waits for the blood to remember. And in the distance, beneath the eternal haze of morning mist, Qianlong Mountain still stood, quiet, unmoving, its surface faintly pulsing, as if with a slow, eternal heartbeat of something vast and awake.